Hey guys, this is episode 23 of the Rugby Recap. You have myself, Rugby Itch, as well as the Q lads. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, mate. Quarterfinals of the Rugby World Cup. We've got through the group stages. It's hit me now that two of the top four sides in the world are going home this weekend, which is quite sad, isn't it? But we've got a couple massive clashes when they go head to head. South Africa versus France, hosts versus defending champs. Doesn't get much bigger than that. And then you've also got Ireland, New Zealand as another matchup.
First one we'll be talking about is Wales versus Argentina being played with in Marseille. Just what's your first reaction towards this game? Like, what do you think of it overall?
Well, I think the game between Argentina and Japan told us if that game is anything to go off, this one should be relatively close and also a relatively fast paced game of rugby as well. Of course, the big injury news no Pablo Matera for the Argentines, and that is the massive blow. Although, saying that, for the Welsh, they haven't got themselves to Lupe Faletau, so there's kind of a loose forward problem for both teams, but they've been able to fill it quite nicely. For the Welsh, having Dan Biggar back in that starting lineup, I think will be a huge boost for them in this game going head to head with Santiago Carreras. It's going to be a fast-paced game of rugby if the series that we saw in 2021 is anything to go off, so hopefully it's going to be very entertaining.
No, I couldn't agree more with you there. Like you said, with that replacement with Pablo Matera, they've gone with Isa at the number 8 to kind of fill that role and obviously put Juan Martin Gonzalez as the number 6 option. And then, for the Welsh, of course, they've kind of, it's a bold call to do this, but they've put Jack Morgan at the number 6 when he's been playing pretty well at the number 7. But of course, they've then by doing that, they've allowed Tommy Rafael to play number 7, and the reason they've said they've done that is because he's really good within the breakdown in terms of his jack lane. So they want to give that a bit of. They see that as a point to kind of add towards his side, because when you're facing the likes of the Argentinians, it really goes back and forth. So I can understand why they've made that switch there. But like you said, Dan Biggar at the number 10 spot. It's interesting to see no Gareth Anscombe on this, in the whole team. But again, he had that bit of a knock, so it's understandable that he's not available for this one. But overall, it's pretty impressive to see both these sides. I mean, again, both these sides were pretty impressive throughout the group stages. Wales getting that massive victory over the Wallabies, doing pretty well to hang on against the Fijians. And then, again, from the other side of the field with the Pumas, they lost that opening game against the English, which was just one of those games where I guess they can kind of ride off. And since then they've won every other game, including Samoa, that Japanese game at the end. So I think both sides are going into this with good form. I mean, who would you say is kind of like the ones to watch play? I'd say from this game for both sides.
For Wales, I think the one to watch is definitely Dan Biggar to see what he can do. Playing that fly half role, I know that Wales will want to try and get as many tries as possible early on in the game, because Argentina are a side that if you keep them in the game, they will then start to build that momentum closer and closer to that 80 minutes. We saw it in that game up against the Japanese. Every time Japan scored, Argentina went, hang on, we were supposed to be in the lead, so we'll get a few more points and extend that a bit more. So Wales, if they can score 2 or 3 quick tries, it may be just enough to be able to shut down that Argentine momentum. Lewis Rees-Zammit coming off quite a few tries in this Rugby World Cup competition. I'm sure he will be looking for a little bit more open space. We're also seeing Josh Adams added back in, out on that left wing. For the Argentines, I feel like there are certainly players in that backline that are going to have to step up for them to be able to match some of these Welsh players. They haven't exactly got the same level of experience as some of those Welsh guys. But, Emiliano Boffelli, Mateo Carreras coming off a hat-trick in the last round of the Rugby World Cup. So him and Lewis Rees-Zammit actually going head-to-head, the two hat-trickers from their last round. Going to be very exciting indeed. And then I think that someone who needs a big game is probably Thomas Cubelli, seeing as he is in the starting lineup. Yeah. They do not have the option of Gonzalo Berjano here, and that is a massive hit just before the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Argentinian team, like you said, they definitely have more of a younger team on this, just comparing both sides. And again, that's not really a surprising thing, because the Welsh, they generally go with a lot of experience in a lot of the games they play, and they just rely on that alone. But like you said, with the Argentinians, they have a few experienced players in there, like Julian Montoya, They got Baffelli, who I see as an experienced player now for the Argentinians. They got Kubeli. So yeah, like you said, these players will have to step up in the moments. But personally, I'm actually pretty excited to see the center kind of battle in that sense, because I think both center combinations are pretty good. With the Welsh having the likes of Nick Tompkins and George North facing the likes of Trickle Barris and Cinti. I just think it's going to be a good battle to watch that. And I think Choco Barris, he's one of those players. He shines, but he has to. It's just kind of what the Argentinians need to do, really. In all honesty, they need to start early, and if he starts early, he's going to be in good form throughout the game. But yeah, Cinti's just another player who I've really been impressed by throughout this Rugby World Cup. Obviously has that big left foot of his, so it just adds another asset towards his game. But yeah, again, from a Welsh perspective, with Nick Tompkins, he's been pretty impressive throughout this Rugby World Cup. Got that assist, that chip and chase against the Wallabies, to what I recall. And yeah, George North, obviously, he's a try scoring machine at the end of the day. He's always looking for that try line. So it's always good to have someone like that in that third team position. But I guess for myself, about to say my ones to watch, I would look at Lucio Cinti as a player to look out for from an Argentinian perspective. And for the Welsh, I mean, yeah, I got to say Jack Morgan. I think he's the guy who's really going to, if he can have a good game, I think the Welsh are on to a victory. So, we'll see what happens on that front. But yeah, before we kind of move on away from this game, what was your kind of your prediction, you would say?
Oh, I love giving predictions. I always get them
we're
right,
not the best
of
at this,
course.
but that's
Well, at least I predicted these two sides would face each other in this game. I guess that's one bonus. But in my prediction, I predicted Argentina to win this game, yet I advanced Wales through to the semi-finals in our video that we did. So I got it slightly wrong, but I honestly feel like Los Pumas, they had a good chance, but then when you see the players that they've lost, I feel like Wales overall, they're undefeated up to the stage of the competition, and I can honestly see them squeezing out a close game here, winning it like 29 points to 26 or somewhere along those lines in this match.
29 points to, just repeat that again. 29 points to what?
To 26.
26. Wow. So, I mean, that's pretty high scoring, actually, for a quarterfinal.
Yeah, but these two sides back and forth.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, like, I was going to say, like, this game will really come down towards the kicking battle. In all honesty, it's going to be bigger versus Baffelli at the end of the day. It just matters who's going to have it in just terms of
battle of the bees.
Yeah. But it's going to be interesting. Like, I think for mine, I think it'll be a much closer scoreline. But I think lower than what you said. I think my heart is telling me the Pumas, they can win this, but I think logically with my head, I think the Welsh are definitely the favorites. When we do these predictions, I generally go with my heart, but I think for this one, I got to think with my head a bit more. And in that case, I will go with the Welsh to win this. I think they'll win it by, I think both sides are going to try. So I'll say 7-7. I think the Welsh probably have like 4 penalties, knowing the Welsh. So it'll be 12, 19. So I'll say 19 points. Then towards the, what was that, 12? Yes, 12, making sure my math's good. 19 points towards the Welsh. And I would say, one less. I'll just say 16. So 19-16 to the Welsh. I'd say that's the final score line. We'll see what happens on that front. But moving away from this game here, probably in my opinion, I actually do think this is the biggest clash in the quarterfinals, which is Ireland versus New Zealand. This is going to be a monster of a game. Both sides obviously announced their lineups are ready. A few shocks, a few omissions as well. But what was your perspective in terms of like the lineups first of all? Because I guess from an Irish point of view, there's not really a lot of shocks. It's really just more. The only one really is that James Ryan is not available and Henderson will take his place, and that Lowe and Hansen obviously have passed the fitness tests and are available for the wings. But besides that, it's pretty standard Irish side. But of course, from the New Zealand side, they've changed a lot. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, Ireland expected lineup, and it's that saying, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. And this lineup has been doing extremely well, getting themselves that massive winning streak throughout the last couple of years. And something that has helped them build that massive winning streak is consistency. Having the same players each and every week, getting the opportunities. Johnny Sexton, I have to say, as much stick as he gets, The man has managed to remain injury-free
Yeah,
throughout
yeah.
this Rugby World Cup, even though he has played every single match. And I know a lot of people were questioning that decision at the start of the comp, whether or not Sexton should have been playing so many minutes, but I think it will heavily benefit them going into this game up against the All Blacks, who have had to make a couple changes. Overall, of course, we know that Mark Talia not going to be out on that left wing. Instead, Lester Fainaanuku makes his way into the lineup. Ethan de Groot coming back from his suspension. Tyrell Lomax, knee injury return.
It's crazy. The whole front, like they've literally gone with Ethan de Groot and Lomax. And correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't seen that in this World Cup. So this is the first time. I don't believe
so. I think every time there's been injuries or suspensions that have stopped it.
So this is going to be the first time we see this since, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it could be the first time we see it since that South Africa game before the Rugby World Cup. So
yeah, so it's an untested duo, I guess you could say. But then saying that in the past they have been tested, it's just whether or not they can find their form in this contest. Because to go and get to hear with Andrew Porter and Tyke Furlong, which, as we know, is not an easy day at the office. You know, there's probably easier games you could find yourself in rather than one up against this Irish side in form. Dan Sheehan also back into that starting lineup for the Irish after his injury. Did get to start last week, did look strong. So I'm glad to see him getting another chance for New Zealand. We've got the big talking point, Tim, and you probably know I was going to bring it up, and I feel like even you were probably going to bring it up in this case. Finlay Christie off the bench rather than Cam Roigard. Now, I have the reasoning behind it from Ian Foster. He said that it's for the defence. Later on in the game, he feels that defensively, Finlay Christie is the better option. But I have a question for you, Tim. Up against a side like the Irish, you want to be attacking, don't you, later on in the game, rather than sitting back and allowing them to kind of decide where the game dictates. And Mackenzie Roigard, that combination we saw has worked for the All Blacks throughout this Rugby World Cup. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Is it the right decision? Look,
I actually do agree. I actually agree with you that it's one of those where when I first saw it announced, I was like, "Whoa, that's in my opinion that was the bigger call than Leicester putting him in the side."
Yeah.
Because again, Leicester and Martellet, you can kind of like both go for either one, and you'll be pretty happy at the end of the day. But a lot of people are obviously wanting Roigard to come off the bench, and even made a shout for him even to start because he's been playing that that impressive throughout this World Cup. But again, with Christie, like you said, if they're going off the tackling, then I understand because I've seen obviously every Blues game. I can understand that from a tackling defensive point of view, he's definitely the better scrum half from a defensive point of view. I do agree with Foster there, but like you said, if it really depends what the All Blacks what position they are will kind of in going into that second half. Because if they're ahead in that second going into that second half, then okay, yes, then it can then sorry, I can't even speak. It can then be seen as the better decision. But if it's not like, I don't know, like if Roigard, he just gives you that attacking flair. I do find it surprising they haven't gone with it because he's just been brilliant. He's been sensational. So
the thing is really as well, like I think he made 9 from 9 tackles in the game up against Uruguay. He managed to only miss 1 up against Italy, and I think he missed 1 against France. So it's not exactly a bad record really for Roigard. And how many tries, how many assists has the man been able to get for the All Blacks? And what happened in that game when Scotland started applying that pressure from their reserves up against the Irish? 2 quick tries. And that was something that if they weren't down by so many points, could have been the game changer. I think that it's definitely Fozzie. The sentence that he used was horses for courses, saying, oh, well, we've seen it work before, we'll see it work again. It's going to be interesting, but we need to credit this Irish side, of course, for what they've been able to do over the last 12 months or so. Bundyaki and Gary Ringrose in that midfield, that is definitely going to be a threat for the ABs. I feel like they'll be quietly confident about James Lowe and Mac Hansen out on those wings, mainly because they'll know that deep down those two are still nursing injuries to a certain extent. But, I mean, James Lowe, I said it in my lineups video as well, the man would be wearing an eye patch and he'd still want to play this game. Exactly. At the end of the day, it's a massive chance. Loose forwards, definitely going to have to step up. Savia back in, Kane also starting at 7. I'll be honest, in terms of individual battles, I feel like this is one of those games like you said a little bit earlier on, that people are looking at the head-to-heads, and there are so many head-to-heads that you can kind of enjoy that we've seen a prelude of in the past. France versus South Africa also has that to a certain extent, but in a different way, if that makes sense.
I agree. So who do you say then? I know I always have to
you're
ask
asking me for the
who
prediction.
would be your kind of ones to watch from both sides in this game?
Or ones to watch. I can do ones to watch because that's easier than predictions. I would say ones to watch.
We'll do the ones to watch first and obviously go on with the prediction. But who do you say is kind of like the key battle or just the ones to watch players you're from both sides in this game?
I think for the All Blacks, the key has to be honest, Sam Cane at number 7, because you look at who he's going up against. Josh Van den Flair, he's regarded as one of the best number 7s in the world. If Sam Cane can hang with him, that gives Sam Cane a huge amount of credibility that some people maybe haven't wanted to give him, perhaps don't feel that he deserves. But if he can go toe-to-toe with Josh Van den Flair, I feel like that will be a massive feather in the cap for Sam Cane in this contest. Win, lose, or draw, if he's able to match Josh Van den Flair, I feel like that would be a pretty awesome way for him to close out his final Rugby World Cup. In the back line, I think for the Irish, Johnny Sexton has to get a mention, doesn't he, with what he's been able to do. But him and Bundy Aki are the dynamic duo with the assisting machine in Ringrose on the outside. That's just going to bring a lot to this Irish team. The ruck speed as well. We've got to remember the All Blacks are one of the quickest rucks in the Rugby Championship, going head-to-head with one of the quickest ruck speeds in World Rugby, if not the quickest in the Irish. There are so many things to talk about. I feel like you could do like an hour and a half podcast just talking about this game. And it's currently 1:38 a.m. If I didn't have an early morning game of cricket that I have to drive to, I would consider it.
Hey, me too. Because no, like I feel like in terms of the ones to watch for me, like I know definitely from a back perspective, the one I'm most interested in is Bundy Aki versus Jordie Barrett. I think for me, that's the key battle in the game overall as well, because both those players really dictate how how both sides play in terms of the Irish and the All Blacks. For Bundy Aki, they use him as a battering ram to break the lines and, to kind of gain meters in the process. Whereas with Jordie Barrett, it's more the creativity and finding that 50-22 and finding that extra pass with the grubber, or there's a lot of things you can do with Jordie Barrett. So I think those two have the key, I guess whatever they do in this game could dictate, how well the sides play out. But in terms of getting that result at the end of the day. But look, from a forward perspective, off the top of my head, from a lock, you have Retallick and Scott Barrett, then you're facing the likes of Henderson and Tab Byrne. That'll be a pretty good battle. To be fair, I'm actually really just interested to see that Porter and Furlong battle to Ethan de Groots and Tyrell Lomax, because I just want to see what happens there. Because again, I'm not saying it's going to be the best of battles, because in my opinion, I think it could go one way. I hope it doesn't, but I want to see what happens on that front, because it's interesting to see the All Blacks go with Ethan de Groots and Lomax when they haven't played together in this Rugby World Cup so far. So it's a very big call to do, but at the same time, I'm pretty excited to see what happens there. But look, in terms of the prediction, what do you think about this game? Do you think it'll be pretty close? Do you think it'll be one-sided? What's your take on that?
I think it's going to be close. And it's a weird one, because normally for the All Blacks, it's the lineups that get criticised the most that normally perform the best in some regards. Yep. So I think that they're actually going to probably have a better showing than a lot of people are anticipating. Of course, we've got to remember it's the quarterfinals. Yes, the All Black side at times throughout this Rugby World Cup and the last 12 months have looked shaky, but when it comes to a Rugby World Cup, it seems to be just at the right time they can get it right. The Irish, though, they are looking like a formidable form in this Rugby World Cup. I've said the All Blacks by 6 on my preview.
Ooh, okay.
And, I don't like it, because I feel like it could easily go either way, but I'll stick with All Blacks by 6. I assume that you'll give the Irish that little edge, hopefully, so that we're one each way, so that it seems pretty impartial.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing I said before, where in my heart, I want the All Blacks to win, of course, but yeah, in my head, it's telling me Ireland are probably the team to win this one.
Would you agree it's Ireland's game to lose here? because they come into this one with the winning streak. They have all the momentum, number one side in the world. The All Blacks, to a certain extent, though, some people still see them as the favourites
Yeah, see,
heading
I
into
actually
it.
wouldn't
So,
say that. That's the thing. I think it's the one thing that holds them down to what you're saying, where they're seen as the clear favorite, is that they haven't gone past this quarterfinal stage. They're gonna break the
yeah.
curse. Like that's the one thing that
Mhm.
it's gonna be in the player's mind. Like the coach will be telling them this, like guys, like we want to do this. Like, this is we've done everything so far perfectly. Let's make that happen once more in this game. Like, let's continue that streak. That's the main thing that's going to be good. Andy Farrell's going to get across towards the players here. So, look, I'm not going to say Ireland are clear favorites, because you can really make the argument that New Zealand may be favorites going into this game as well. So, I generally don't think there's a favorite. I don't think there's a favorite. I know that obviously you're going to favor one team, but I think it's very close to say there's a clear favorite. But yeah, look, I will back the Irish for this one. Again, I think it'll be pretty close. I'm going to probably go with a scoreline. I think it'll be lower, actually. I think it's going to be somewhat like a low scoreline to what we saw in that Bok game. I could be completely wrong, because the All Blacks like to play a bit more aggressive rugby compared towards the Boks. And, and with that, obviously, they have a bit more, they become more open. So maybe there will be more tries in this one. I will change my mind. I actually will go with a higher score line. I'm going to say 25 points to 20. I'm going to say in favor of the Irish, something like that. It's going to be somewhere around there in the 20s, I hope. Again, I would not be surprised if it's a similar scoreline to what we saw in the Boks game. But I'm hoping that, will be a bit more of a, just be up all in the air. That's all I'm really hoping for. But
Shannon
anyway.
Frizzell to get a yellow card. Heard it here first.
Oh yeah, jeez. Frizzell with yellow card, would not be surprised at all. But anyway, moving on towards the next one, which is going to be the following day on Sunday. The first game being England versus Fiji. While we're recording this, Fiji haven't announced their lineup yet. They're the only side to not announce their lineup. But of course, we've seen the England side. And yeah, again, we kind of discussed this before the recording, but I was not surprised at all to see the England lineup they announced, because there was a lot of leaks actually going into this week in terms of George Ford not being in the starting lineup, which is probably the big call here. But again, he is off the bench, so he's not going to he's not entirely out of the squad, but still, it's a big call to make, because he's been pretty impressive throughout this Rugby World Cup. And again, Owen Farrell will be taking his place at number 10 spots, and they're going with I believe Marcus Smith at number 15, and ahead of Freddie Stewart. And Freddie Stewart isn't even in the squad, that's the one which, I don't know. It's a big call, but I understand. I guess you can make the argument England have played slightly better when Marcus Smith has played at 15. So far,
they played one game up against Chile when he was at 15, didn't they?
He was pretty good in that one. He was pretty good.
He was, but so was England.
It's going to be close. At the end of the day, it's going to be a pretty close one. But just overall, what's your take on the game as a whole?
Fiji have been brewing. They've had a couple rough performances over the last couple of weeks, but something that Fiji seem to thrive off is being the underdogs. They were favourites up against Portugal, favourites up against Georgia, underdogs up against the Australians, and that was the game that they managed to pull off the win. I feel like this one up against the English, if they can get their selection right, could be a lot closer than some are anticipating. But then there's the other side of it, which is the English, I still believe, if they play well, do have the potential of winning this game by 15 plus. Because if Fiji do play like they did in their last two games, and they have that many handling errors, that was hurting them big time, about 15 in that game up against the Portuguese, that will be where England get most of their attack from. They've got a brilliant set in the loose forward trio, Courtney Lawes, Tom Curry, Ben Earl as well. I would have loved to see Lewis Ludlam, of course, but unfortunately just with the pecking order means that he's that little bit further down. But this backline, we called for a Manu Tuolangi, number 12 March, and number 13. We said you cannot afford to have George Ford and Owen Farrell in that same backline. They changed it, but probably not in the way that people thought. They expected George Ford to be that starting 10, but overall it should be an exciting game. I'm looking forward to seeing who the Fijians go with and what kind of changes they make in terms of how they play up
Yeah.
against the English here.
No, I agree. And the interesting thing as well is that they've been very strategic, England, because they've put Elliot Daly as the number 11 and they put Johnny May as the number 14. And of course, they've done that for the reason where Semi Radradra will most likely play as the number 11 for the Fijians. Again, he could play as a center. You never know. The team hasn't been announced yet, but he's been playing there mostly throughout this Rugby World Cup. So it's understandable how they feel Johnny May will be better to at least contain Semi Radradra compared to the likes of Elliot Daly. But yeah, again, Harry Ondell, that's probably the big shout as well, not to be included so far for that winger. You did mention beforehand that there's been a bit of, I guess, back and forth in the media, but again, it's not really 100% true, so we're not going to really go on that. But it's just at the end of the day, it's really interesting to see that he hasn't been included because he's another player who really stood out in that game against Chile, and I thought. I don't know. I think whenever he's on the field, he's just been outstanding at the end of the day. So it's tough not to include him, but I understand by having Elliot Daly there, he kind of gives you that X factor in the sense where he can kick the ball far. Like he can kick the ball far, and it's something which not a lot of players can do. So I mean, what's your take on that? Do you think Elliot Daly was the right choice there?
It's interesting because Arundel, if he had played this game and theoretically scored 2 tries or something along those lines, he could have been the competition leading try scorer playing 2 games. Which, I mean, at the moment, it's quite contested. He'll be sitting there going, please put me in, coach. I'm right there. Pinot's catching me. Will Jordan's catching me. All these boys are getting really close, but I would just like to get one more game, score another few tries, get that a little bit further ahead. But yeah, overall, I mean, for England, they are a side that sometimes people look at those lineups and go, why have they done that? But sometimes that's when it works. A little bit similar to the All Blacks in that regard. So England, if they're clinical, they limit their errors, I can still see them doing relatively well in this quarterfinal game. They are undefeated up to this stage of the Rugby World Cup as well, we should mention. Not conceding a huge amount of tries either throughout all of their games. So, yeah, the chances that Fiji make, they have to take, or else could be a long day at the office.
No, couldn't agree more. But very quickly, what is your ones watch players for this game?
For the English, I would say Ben Earl at number 8. He just seems to bring the morale up massively. Sometimes it's only like a penalty one in the 3rd minute of the contest. You'd think he's won the World Cup, but he loves to G up the forward pack, get them all fired up. But I think their midfield combo as well for England, definitely 2 players to watch out for. If I was going to base mine off the Fijian side that I believe they will be selecting, Tevita Ikanaveri. Massive impact anytime he has made his way onto the field for the Fijians. It's a little bit of an unfortunate one because Matavesi, he has been out of form. We recently heard about the news of his father passing as well, so I'm not even sure if he is going to be included in the starting lineup or reserves. But yeah, I think Ikanaveri could cut this game open if he gets it right. He's just a ball of physicality in that forward back for the Fijians. Also, I mean, Lavani Botia, definitely another one for the Fijians that will be playing if he isn't injured. And then in that back line, I actually predicted that they would switch Semi Radradra into the centres, play him at outside centre, and then have Joshua Tuisova on the inside, Habossi out on that left wing, Nayata Levu off the bench. I don't know whether or not they'll consider that, but I actually think that would be a very strong option for the Fijians in this game.
I just think Nayata Levu has probably been their best player, though. I think in that back line. I mean, that's maybe he's been really good throughout this World Cup.
He has been good. I'm just a little bit worried that maybe as the games, definitely in those couple games that they've had that have been close.
Don't you think that makes it less likely?
Maybe, although they've got other players in that back line that they have given the captaincy to, such as Radradra. I feel like Nayata Levu's impact off the bench in this game could be absolutely substantial. And I feel like he'd be more of a game winner off the bench than Vinaya Habossi, which I believe would be who would be at number 23 if Radradra's in that starting side. So it was just a little switch that I was thinking might actually help them out. But yeah, I doubt they will do it, but that's just Just what
No,
I
I
thought.
understand. I mean, for me personally, I would actually say Naiva Levu was the player I was looking at in terms of my ones to watch for this game from a Fijian perspective. Because again, most people will obviously go with Simi Radradra or Joshua Tuisova or I don't know Hobosi probably. But I don't know. I just want to put a bit of light on him. I just think he's been pretty impressive throughout this Rugby World Cup. So he's my kind of ones to watch for the Fijians. But yeah, from the English standpoint, gosh, I mean, I actually think Marcus Smith is the player I'm actually interested to see how well he does in this game because it, I don't know. I'm not sure. Is it a bigger call to not go George? I think no. I still think it's probably a bigger call to go not George Ford than you put Owen Farrell at 10. But still, to put Marcus Smith as a 15 option ahead of Freddie Stewart's a big call as well. So yeah, no, it's gonna be fascinating. I'm actually looking forward to see what he can do, obviously in that 15 spot. Because again, like you said, he's only played one game so far there, but still, I think he can definitely handle it. So we'll see what happens. But what's your prediction then? What's the prediction for this game?
Well, I'm looking at this English lineup. Of course, not knowing Fiji's side makes it a little bit trickier.
Yeah.
But I would say that this one is actually like, I know I said the last game was someone's to lose, but this game is England's to lose, isn't it? At the end of the day, they are considered as a side that should be able to go far in this Rugby World Cup. The Fijians, they're everyone's second team, it would seem, throughout this Rugby World Cup. And unfortunately, with their last two performances, it's made it a very hard second team to get behind. But there was ever a time for them to step up and show exactly how they were able to beat the English in that Rugby World Cup warm-up game. It's the repeat match in the quarterfinals. And I just hope that no matter what happens, whoever loses only loses by around that 5 mark. I don't want to see a runaway game in this contest. I'd love to see it be close and see both sides really just going out there, putting it all on the line.
No, I couldn't agree more with you, and it's going to be fascinating to see what happens in this game. Unfortunately, yes, I know I've been thinking with my head a lot, but I just think it's going to be right again, and probably go with England here. I just think that, like you said, this is one where they are just seen as the favorite. It's not like I know I hate saying this, but I think they're seen as a clear favorite in this game. I think they're really a clear favorite, and like you said, going off the form of the Fijians in their last 2 games, I just think England. I think this is the first game where I think probably the only game actually where I can see a high scoring or kind of one-sided, I guess, scoreline in this one. And I'm afraid to say it, but I think England could win by a scoreline of like, I'm going to say, I think like 32 points. I'd say to like, I don't know, 13, like something like that, like 32 points to 13. It's gonna be something like that. I just think like the English will have the ability to walk away with this. I could be wrong, of course. I'm really hoping I'm wrong. I hope the Fijians really do keep this game close and obviously I don't know, put it down towards that last 10 minutes and maybe that's where the game is decided. But gosh, it's gonna be close. But this, I mean, I hate saying this because I think like the Fijians, like looking back at that England game against Samoa again. I know that's obviously not the best team they could have put out in that game, but still. Like Samoa almost beat them, and I think Fiji's is better than Samoa. So I'm just thinking like, oh, maybe Fiji could do the job here, but I don't know. It's gonna be my head goes back and forth here, but at the end of the day, I do think England are gonna win this game. That's for certain. But moving on towards the last one, which is again a clash of the Titans here, the home nation versus the resigning champions. France versus the Springboks here. I just I can't wait for it. I literally can't wait for this game. Like we mentioned earlier, I will be going live there to watch. But yeah, just I mean, first of all, what do you think about this game overall in terms of the lineups that have been announced? Because let's just start off with overall the game. Then we'll go into the lineups because I think the lineups we can talk about for ages. But overall the game, what do you think about it?
Well, France coming in as the hosts in front of Stade de France is going to be a massive occasion for them. They've currently remained undefeated as well. It's the trend at the moment. Every Northern Hemisphere side that has made their way through to the quarterfinals has not been beaten as of yet. And I guess it's that big question mark. How many Northern Hemisphere sides will continue that trend as we make our way towards the quarterfinals? Whoever wins this game, I should mention as well, will go head-to-head with the winner of England versus Fiji. So there's a little bit of a chance that we could see a Rugby World Cup final rematch as the semi-final if the South Africans are able to pull off the win here and the English are able to beat the Fijians. But overall, I mean, both sides are going to try and play that attacking style of rugby. We know that because of the selections that they have gone with. Springboks, couple surprises there at 9-10. What did you think when you saw Reinach and Lebok as the starting 9-10 combo?
Yeah, like personally, like look, I know we both picked Pollard in our prediction to start the game, but at the end of the day, I'm kind of happy they've backed Libok. I'm kind of pleased they've done that. So I'm actually have no comments really on that front. Just I'm just pleased. I'm pleased they've gone with Libok there. Again, Pollard is off the bench, so it doesn't make too much of an impact. And like if he wasn't included, then that would be a big call. I think that's what would be the bigger call. If like Pollard wasn't off the bench, everyone would be like, "Whoa, okay, that's they've done it." But no, I think because he's there, it's not seen as big of a call as you would expect. But yeah, Cobus Reinach choosing him ahead of Flap de Klerk, that to me is the bigger call because I did say this beforehand. I feel like Reinach versus DuPont have a similar way in how the two nines they just have a similar playing style, I think, in terms of the 9 position. But again, if you have two nines, you play the same. I think one will be better than the other, and I think DuPont is better than is obviously better than Reinach. So I think he's going to definitely get that edge. I could be wrong here. I thought Flap de Klerk could be kind of like the I guess the counter to DuPont, but it's going to be interesting either way. I mean, you can definitely say Reinach's probably been the informed scrum half. Going off the earlier conversation with Roygaard, I mean, he's definitely been the informed scrum half, I'd say, for the All Blacks, and they obviously haven't chosen him in that game. South Africa have probably gone one better than the All Blacks and have put that informed scrum half in their starting lineup. So it's definitely a big call. It's going to be interesting. I mean, Reinach and Libok. I mean, I like the combination. It feels good. And again, I saw Yaki Sneva in the press even mention that how whenever Libok started, he's only lost 1, I think, out of his 10 games. So they're pretty confident in him in terms of what he's able to do on that front. Again, I mean, I'm trying to think of the other big calls. They've gone with Dwayne Vermeulen at number 8. No Jasper Wiese, which is another big call because in my opinion, he's been the better 8 compared to Dwayne Vermeulen throughout this tournament. But again, they're relying on experience, which is, in knockout rugby, it is needed. So I understand the reason for choosing Dwayne Vermeulen ahead of Jasper in this case. But it's going to be interesting because I would not be surprised, by the way, and this is obviously predicting in the future, if the Boks were to progress and they were to face the likes of English or Fiji, I would not be surprised at all if Jasper Wiese takes that. And then the Boks were then to make a decision if they were to ever get to the final. Then that's where the big call would be. But look, I mean, I'm trying to think what else. Was there any other big calls? I mean, Will LaRue. I did say this in our thing where it felt so wrong not to have him in our lineup prediction because he's a player who's always there. So for the Boks not to even include him in our lineups, it just felt wrong. So I'm kind of happy they've done it for me and included him in. But I guess the biggest talking point is that the Boks have gone with a 5-3 split. So what's your take on that?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it was always going to be the case of, do you have that extra forward in Jasper Wiese, or do you have the extra back in Willie LaRue? And they have gone with Willie LaRue in this case. I think that there's the massive talking point, though, for France. And that's the fact that Dupont is starting in this game. We've got to remember that man's got a broken face. So you were talking about that head-to-head between him and Cobus Reinach. At least Cobus Reinach's face isn't held together by plates and whatnot at the moment. Instead, he's, I think, going to be the more brave halfback in regards of piercing around the side of the breakdown, because all it's going to take is one big shot in Dupont around that side. And, I hope no serious injury comes around, but there's always that cloud now that he's playing so early.
Throughout the game.
I think so. I think it'll be a little bit tentative around the breakdown. And I think the Springboks will know that. So they might even decide to apply that little bit more pressure, chuck someone like a Peter Stiftatoy or a Dwayne Vermeulen around the side of the breakdown just to hurry him up a little bit. And, just try and make it a little bit scrappy in the breakdowns so that he does have to decide, do I want to go in there or do I want to stay out and maybe have our forwards get trampled over. But Jonathan Dante, number 12, definitely a massive player for the French going head-to-head with Damien Dialende
I
So that
can't
will
wait for that
be
battle.
pretty intriguing. Ramos at 15 versus Damien Valimza. We talked about that Valimza and Mani Libok combo, how it is better when they keep it together, and they have done just that in this matchup. So, yeah, a lot of keys for both of these sides, as we've said, but going to be pretty awesome. Do you think your prediction has changed now that you've seen the starting lineups compared to what it maybe would have been at the start of the week?
Well, I've always said that I felt confident the Bucks can win this. I've never shied away from that. I felt going into this game, I just think the Bucks, they just, yeah, they just fill me with confidence. Maybe that's a bit of a, it could be delusion, but at the end of the day, I just think I just feel a bit of confidence with them, and yeah, just they have the experience to back it up, of course, going off the previous World Cup, and yeah, I mean, even like the comment you made earlier with Dupont. I mean, if he is obviously a bit cautious in that sense, maybe choosing Rannick is a smart decision because he's probably the better one to attack the line compared to the likes of Faf de Klerk. So that may get Dupont off guard a bit. So maybe it is a tactical decision there. But yeah, look, I feel confident the Bucks can do it. I hope they don't prove me wrong here. I really do think the Bucks can win this, but hey, you're facing the home nation, so it's going to be a very tough place to obviously play at, and particularly the Stade de France, where everyone's going to be singing the national anthem probably 10 times throughout the game. So it's it's going to get very patriotic for sure. But and the French will definitely be in the mood for that because they'll need all that everyone to kind of support them in that stadium, and obviously everyone around the world who's watching. But yeah, look, I'm really looking forward to this one. But I'll start off with my kind of ones to watch for this one. I think for the Bucks, I think the player I'm most interested in seeing we've talked about him already, but it's Kobus Radek. I think he's probably the player I'm looking at in this game in terms of that battle between him and Dupont. But from a forward perspective, I think you've got to look at Dwayne Vermeulen. I just think he's the one player who I want to see stand out in this game. I think he stood out going back a few, not the last one, but the one before in 2015, where he had that behind the back pass towards Dupuis to set up a try against the Welsh in that quarterfinal. Kind of hoping that he can put a bit more, still has that magic in him, and kind of gets that another moment essentially that helps the Bucks win this game. But yeah, I guess in terms of the French, from a forward perspective, I think Muvaka is probably a player I think I got to highlight because he's been pretty impressive for the French at this Rugby World Cup, and obviously with Julian Michon just not available, he's really stepped up in that place. So I've been very impressed by him. So he's definitely someone to look out for in that forward pack, particularly from the set pieces. But yeah, in terms of the back line, I've already mentioned Dupont, but I think I'm really more interested in seeing what Radek does against him. So I'm not going to say Dupont for this in that case. I'm actually looking more towards who do I say here? Yeah, I got to say Dante. I just got to say Dante because I'm interested to see what Dante can go against the likes of Damien Delande. So yeah, that's my kind of once to watch plays this game. What about yourself?
I'm going to say two names: Mani Libok versus Mathieu Jalibert.
I like that.
Battle of the tens. I feel like in this case, whoever's able to use their backline the best, because yes, it's going to be important getting those passes from the halfback, but it's what you do from there. Because we've seen Mani Libok ever since he's been starting at 10. The Springboks have played a lot more attacking rugby than they did used to. So Jalibert, a perfect example of a young player who's come into the side for Roman Intermac and really had a huge impact, being able to help France be a little bit more attacking. This is a French side that scored over 150 points in their last two games. Going up against the Box, let's just say that's not going to happen because that is a huge number, but the Box conceded the most tries that they have in a game in their last fixture up against Tonga, conceding the 3.
Yeah.
So, this has been a World Cup where France have struggled to get themselves try bonus points. In those first two games, they didn't get one up against Uruguay and they didn't get one up against New Zealand. Tell you what, it would be a statement getting 4 against the Box in a quarter-final fixture as well.
Yeah, no, I actually do think this could actually be a high-scoring game. We'll get into the prediction. I mean, we might as well just get into it right now. I mean, I actually do think that the game is be pretty high scoring. I just think, like you said, the Box have let in a few tries, throughout the group stages, and the French, at the end of the day, they do allow tries. They definitely allow more tries to what we've seen against like the Irish, if you're comparing them to the Irish. So I definitely feel a bit more confident Box getting at least 2 or more tries in this game against the French. Can definitely see that happening. But yeah, look, I got about my Box. I'm gonna be there as well, so I'll be cheering them on, of course. But I do believe the Box can win this. Like I said, I do think it'll be high scoring. So I'm gonna go for a scoreline of, I'm gonna say 29 points to 27 in favor of the Bucks. Yeah,
Okay.
it's gonna be an edgy game. We're gonna have some tries in there, but I think the Bucks will edge it, and would not be surprised if Andre Pollard is the one to seal the deal with a penalty. But yeah, well, what's your prediction for this one?
Well, I know that people will say we're Southern Hemisphere biased, even though we've already backed 2 Northern Hemisphere sides to win out of the 4 games, but I am saying the Springboks here, 25 points to 18. I feel like the fact that they've gone with Marnie Libok in the starting side says that they want to be aggressive, they want to be attacking in the way that they play rather than playing that kicking game with France, which is normally what teams get lured into doing. That's what the All Blacks did up against the French in that opening game. They decided to play that kicking contest, and that is where France do flourish. So if the Springboks run the ball rather than kicking, I feel like they will be able to get themselves a decent win here.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. And just to recall, so you've gone with Wales, New Zealand, you've gone with England, and you've gone with South Africa. So from 2 from the Southern Hemisphere, 2 from Northern Hemisphere. That would mean that
biased whatsoever.
yeah.
Thank you very much, comment
England
section.
would be then facing what, the Box, and New Zealand would then be facing the likes of the Welsh. So yeah, that'd be 2 good clashes there. I guess for my case, I've only made really one change to you, where I've said the Irish will beat the All Blacks. So that would mean what, Ireland versus Wales, and then obviously South Africa versus England. But yeah, at the end of the day, guys, this is knockout rugby, so it's gonna get very tense no matter what. Particularly for those 2 clash of the titan games, being Ireland and New Zealand, and South Africa, France. But yeah, no, also very excited to see Wales, Argentina, and England, Fiji. Those will be heck of games to watch. But besides that, guys, we're gonna leave it there. Make sure to like this video, guys. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.